So today I'll show you how to make sourdough Bialy. Anyway, I know I'm butchering the pronunciation here. They were first made by Jewish bakers in Poland. The hole in the middle doesn't go quite all the way through. Instead, it contains a delicious filling. I also have a recipe for the regular yeasted version. I'll leave a link in the top right corner if you want to watch that. But let's get on with these, and as always you'll find all the measurements and weights down in the description box. So let's start with the equipment that we'll use. We'll need a baking tray, and I would suggest some parchment paper. I didn't have any, so I'm going to use some semolina to prevent them from sticking. I'll need a bowl for mixing your dough in, scales, scraper, temperature probe, and a brush for brushing them with egg. Now on to the ingredients: strong white bread flour, water, salt, sesame seeds, or any seeds of your choice really, an egg, a nice and active sourdough starter, and then you'll need some fillings. I have some caramelized onions with ham and also some cheese. Right, so I know my kitchen is around 22 degrees C, so I want my water to be around the same temperature. The first step, you need to make a leaven. All this is a portion of the total water, a portion of the total flour, and a little bit of sourdough starter. I feed mine at a 1 to 10 to 10 ratio, so 1 part starter, 10 parts water, 10 parts flour. I know that will take my starter around 12 to 16 hours. Yours might be different, it's up to you to learn how your starter reacts. But it's as simple as that. Mix those ingredients, cover them up, and leave them. I normally do this overnight. So the next day, get your bowl, add the rest of the water, add the salt, and mix to dissolve, and then straight in with the starter. Now it's not advisable to let your starter mingle with the salt for too long, but we are working quickly here, so it's not going to do any harm. Now make sure your leaven is nice and strong. You should feel resistance as you are spooning it out. It should be full of air, and it should float in the water. And even when you stir it, you should keep its shape. So give it a quick mix and add the rest of the flour. Now get your scraper and bring it all together until you don't see any more dry flour. And once you're happy with that, tip it out on your table and we can start kneading it. Now this dough doesn't contain a lot of water, so we'll use a normal kneading method. What I like to do is press down and forwards with the heel of my right hand, and using the fingers of my left hand, I fold the piece of dough under the heel of my right hand, then turn and repeat. This should take no more than 5 to 7 minutes, and you'll feel the dough getting a lot less sticky and a lot smoother. And don't worry if it's still a little bit sticky even after you finish kneading it. It is normal for this dough, because we are using quite a high proportion of pre-fermented flour. So once you are finished, shape it into a ball, stretch it out, fold the edges over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started, and then tighten it against the table. Now you can pop it into the bowl for the first proofing, and at this point always take the temperature of the dough. 23 to 24 degrees C is ideal. If your dough is warmer, you might have to cut down fermentation time or place it in a cooler area, but if it's colder, then you do the other way around. But this is just about perfect, so cover it up, leave it to proof for 45 minutes. And after the first 45 minutes of proofing, we'll perform a fold. So to fold the dough, we'll use the same method that we use for collecting it into a ball. All you need to do is stretch the dough out a little bit, and then fold the edges over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. And then flip the dough back upside down, so smooth side pointing up, and tighten it against the table. You could use a light dusting of flour at this point, just to prevent it from sticking, but it's not too bad. The scraper is a very good tool to help you with tightening the dough ball against the table. So once you're happy with that, pop it back into the bowl, cover it up, and we'll leave it to proof for 45 more minutes. And now it should really start puffing up. You want your dough to double in size by this time basically. Now it's ready to be divided into individual pieces. Now you can eyeball it, but it's best to use scales. And this recipe will make 5 pieces, of quite decent size. So get some flour, get your scales, get your scraper, dust your dough ball, then release it from the bowl using your scraper and tip it out on the table. Stretch it out a little bit, and weigh out 5 equal pieces. And after dividing them, we'll pre-shape them into round balls. And if you want to make 10 Bialys or 15, just double or triple the amounts in this recipe. So the pre-shaping method is the same as we used before. Stretch your dough out, fold the edges over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started, and then tighten against the table. And after you pre-shaped all the dough balls, cover them with cling film and let them rest for 15 minutes before the final shaping. And the final shape is the same as the pre-shape. You can use a bit of flour to prevent them from sticking. So just as before, place your dough ball smooth side down on the table, stretch it out a bit, and then fold the edges over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach the point where you started. Then flip it back smooth side up, tighten it against the table. Now you're done. All this pre-shaping and shaping will create more layers in the gluten, thus making the dough stronger, and it will help it keep its shape a lot better. So once you're finished, dust them with flour, cover them with cling film, and we'll final proof them for 45 minutes. And at this point you should preheat your oven to 240 degrees C, no fan. And look at those beauties popping up, that's what we want to see. Now we're ready to mold them in their final shape, so get your tray, and ideally use parchment paper. Well, I'm going to use some semolina here. And shaping these is quite similar to a pizza, just like a tiny pizza. So just pick it up and stretch it using your fingers. You want a thick edge and really thin bottom, because that's where the filling is going to sit. You might want to dust these with flour a little bit just to prevent them from sticking to your fingers. Now arrange them on a tray with about an inch of space in between them. As they bake, they will spread out a little bit. So here's another perspective on the shaping. Just stretch them and using your thumbs, pull the edge out and make sure the bottom is nice and thin. The next step will be the egg wash. It's a lot less messy, it will make them look a lot better if you do it now than after filling them. So just brush them generously with your egg. And the egg will not only give them beautiful golden color, it will also prevent all the seeds from falling off. So the last step is the filling. Now traditionally these are filled with onions. I have some ham and onions here, but you can use whatever you like. Now you don't want to put too much filling in these. A heaped teaspoon will be enough. And you can press it down into the dough like this. As you have noticed, I'm not adding the cheese right now. If I add it too early, it may burn. So I'm going to bake them for around 8 minutes, and only then I'm going to sprinkle the cheese on top. And again, you don't want too much on here, otherwise they'll turn into a puddle. Yeah, and then just continue to bake until they're done. And look at those bad boys. Nice, right? Make sure to let them cool down just a little bit before you stuff your face. Otherwise you'll cause yourself some serious injuries. And that's your bialy. As always, any questions or suggestions, write them down in comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.